This is just a little wiring update on the solar farm control board that I did last night. Or some mods that I did then. This is obviously not night. But what I did is the principal modifications were to the charge controller cabinets, because these particular units, which is in this case a BZ Products model MPPT250HV, the terminal block on the back cannot take any wire bigger than 12 gauge, and for stranded stuff like this you can't even tin it. They won't fit in the terminals otherwise. But what I did is just simply doubled up the wiring for the two battery bank sides, or for the two battery bank terminals, so that there's two runs of 12 gauge which will fit, because the original wire that I had, which was some cheap Mexican car stuff, which I don't think was proper 12 gauge because it's a bit thinner than the actual 12 gauge stuff that I put in parallel with it. But it was getting on the warm side, and partly to reduce power loss from that, and partly to have a bit less heat, because there's already some heat coming off of this, because when you've got fairly high potential drops across a buck converter like this one's got about 50 volts in normal operation, they can get pretty warm. And even now this toroid, even though we're getting almost nothing out of the array, is a bit on the warm side. But anyways, this is because this particular feeder will have upwards of 15 amperes going through it in nice sunny weather, and the system needs when it does that, needing a charge. And so I just doubled up both feeders to increase the current capacity and reduce power loss from wire heating. Then of course I also replaced the fuse block, because the original one I had, this one, you can see that this was salvaged from a piece of equipment, not by me. I just got this in its present state up at PT Surplus. But the idiot jackwagon who pulled it out of whatever piece of equipment it is, they just broke off the two tabs, because ordinarily there'd be a little thin spot in there with a small hole in it, and that the mounting screw would go in, but they broke it off, and they broke off both of them. So what I did do is I had the thing glued in, except I was going to disconnect the fuse, because I was going to be doing this wiring update, and it broke off again. That was the second time that happened. So what I did is I just took another fuse holder that actually has intact terminal screws on it, drilled a pair of holes in the metal cabinet, and then just put in a pair of 1-inch wood screws to hold the thing in place. And what I'm probably going to do with this guy is just get him some washers or something, and maybe also re-drill some new screw holes, because other than that, this fuse block still works perfectly. It's just it's a bit annoying having a live fuse block coming out and risking touching a grounded cabinet, which is, not good, regardless of the system potential. But anyways, other than that, the fuses are still exactly the same. In fact, these are the exact same fuses that were originally in it, because again, the fuses still work perfectly. This fuse block is of course still in good condition, but then again, this guy, I only need to disconnect if something shorts out the battery charging terminals, because this is just a fuse block for the auxiliary charger. And then I just did the same thing with the auxiliary charge controller cabinet. And that's just the same thing, doubled up battery 12-volt side battery wires. I didn't do any modifications to this, to the feeder, to the photovoltaics feeder on this side, because this is operating at about a little over 60 volts, and peak power current is under, and maximum power current is under 3 amperes, which for 12 gauge wire is nothing. In fact, I've got 14 gauge for the feeders that connect the for the feeder cables that connect the home run cables, which right now just come in through a door, because I don't have a actual proper wall termination installed yet, but I'll probably end up replacing this with the same 12 gauge stuff that I used for updating this, because also this, originally it was red and white cables, because this is something that I actually made, not this cabinet, this I made for a little project in summer of 2001. That's an almost 11-year-old cabinet. And, but what I did is this was just a quick and dirty graft on, because I needed an auxiliary charge controller, because this was during that whole Snowtober storm of doom and suffering. But anyways, but what I did is I replaced the original feeders, which was this red and white 12 gauge stuff, with blue and yellow, which is the blue is the hot, yellow is the neutral, because I don't know, but then again, oftentimes these are not regular neutrals because they need to be isolated from the neutral for current sensing purposes, because that's how lots of charge controllers do it, because so the Hall effect devices, while much easier to implement, are somewhat expensive. But anyways, and so yeah, well, also the yellow is also the new standard color for marine neutrals, but I don't know, in Europe they've got a blue neutral, which makes no sense. And if you want a really bad, in China, not only is the blue neutral, but their L2 hot, green. But, yeah. But then again, it's not a normal neutral, so that's why I did it. That and the wire was cheap. These are both, well, these were 100-foot coils. I did cut a bit out of them for these. But these were both about, price tag said $15 each up at PT Surplus, and I think I probably paid more like $12 since I've only been going there since it was 9 or 8 or something. Been going there a long time. But anyways, so other than that, and bus bars, which are all in place and working, knock on wood. Other than that, no real updates. What I'll probably be doing sometime in the near future is grafting in a QRM RFI filter into the Sunforce feed, so that way I don't have to have that thingamajig, and probably a modified one to cut down on QRM from this, although I'll have to come up with my own thing that doesn't have a capacitor on the supply side, because again, in square wave inverter you're feeding it square wave, or not true square wave, it's modified square wave, but you're still feeding a capacitor square wave, which is for that bit where the potential is going from 0 volts to either positive 140 volts or negative 140 volts. For that small bit, it's dead short, and capacitors don't like it because you can hear them squealing. So, just another project. Oh, and one last update is that I, one of the radio circuits for the office, I did graft that onto the system now properly, and that's what that little 10 ampere breaker is. And that I had to get from Solar Boulevard, because all the other ones, which came from Home Cheapo, they don't carry 15 ampere ones. Or they don't carry the 10 ampere ones. The lowest one they carry is 15 amperes. And of course that means that that's $9 versus the $5 that all these other breakers are. But still cheaper than getting it from Grainger, because those they want over $12 a piece for them. And then that one, don't know what's going to be going in there yet, because I haven't even allocated any of these yet. Well, this one goes to a cigarette lighter receptacle on the porch for spotlights, for a hand spotlight for coyotes, but these two have yet to be allocated, and those are just unused at this present time. And aside from having just getting the start on some proper labeling. Actually, a little label for the cigarette lighter down there. That's pretty much system update so far. But still work in progress.